Hey everybody, welcome to r/Tales from Tech Support, where we get to have a little chuckle at the technologically disadvantaged. Like me, I'm Uncle Reddit, and have I got a story for you. Your software is so slow and unreliable, how do you stay in business? We've had this customer for more than 20 years, and this is the first time we've heard that they're having a problem at one of their retail stores on their property. When we asked how long the problem has been happening, the reply was, "Years and years, and we're just sick of it." We're told that only one user can be in the software at a given time, and that as soon as another computer logs in, everything slows down or just crashes with a variety of errors including not responding or file not found, etc. This is really odd because they have several locations on their property, all running from the same server, and have none of these problems anywhere else. We've been troubleshooting things, digging in code, trying to reproduce it on their server, etc. for 2 weeks now. We can't reproduce this problem no matter what we try. A couple days ago, we insisted that they verify their network integrity at this location, and they got offended and refused, saying we always blame the network. This is not true because this is our first time dealing with this issue. We have a benchmark tool that will allow them to diagnose IOPS, overall file transfer speeds, disconnects, delays, etc., all with the click of a single button. But they won't do it because obviously there's a software bug we need to fix that only affects a single location on their network. We reach out to their IT company contact we have on record and explain the situation. A day later, we get a call from him, and he explains the situation. The customer won't admit who did it, but rather than pay the IT company to connect this location to the main building, someone installed a couple dial-up modems and has the remote location dial up the server and then shares that connection with the other computers. They're running the software via network shares, over a 56K modem that has 6 computers sharing the bandwidth. I'm shocked that even one computer works at a time. This customer has 35 licenses for our software, and we gave them a 50-pack of RDS cals a couple years ago, so there really is no excuse to be accessing network shares like this. The IT company is going to try to explain the problem to them, but this is unfortunately the wrong time to be asking them to spend money. At least they'll stop blaming us for it. That sounds like the boss's nephew said he knew how to do tech stuff and wouldn't charge him anything, and the boss said, "Sure, go ahead, get us hooked up." Holy cow. So many people seem to think we're idiots. I've taken so many calls where I have to tell a customer no. Usually they don't like it, which I get. You're calling to hear a yes. What bothers me is that as soon as you tell a customer no, they think you're an idiot. They never just take it, and I always make sure to tell the customer why the answer is no, so they can understand it. But so many times it goes along the lines of this. Me equals me, C equals customer. Me. I'm sorry, but because of point A and B, we can't honor your request. Customer. Uh-huh. Are you sure? Me. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Customer, but repeats the whole story again. Me. Yes, I understand, but unfortunately this doesn't change the answer. Customer. Maybe you should check with someone with more knowledge than you. Me. No, ma'am, sir. I am 100% sure of the answer I just gave you. Customer. Oh, yeah? Well, I'll call back tomorrow. Maybe I can get someone else on the phone who does know how to help me with my problem, which is totally my own fault, but I still blame your company for it. Me. Well, you can always do that, but my colleague's answer will be exactly the same. Customer. We'll see about that. Like WTF, I'm not calling you, you're calling me. Why do you even bother to call if you don't trust me anyway? Good question. And I gotta tell you, OP, it isn't just tech support or help desk or call centers. Yeah, you guys aren't the only ones to deal with that. I deal with that in my industry too, and in retail, and you name it. The amount of entitlement floating around these days just totally blows my mind. What's a DeMouser? Read about a decade and a half ago, the company I worked for sold some very niche software for pre-press agencies that ran on Solaris, and all of us technicians were supposed to support it. So Windows-focused me was given a training together with some of my colleagues, who actually knew their way around Unix, and saying I understood half of the administrative side of that application would have been overstating things a bit. I managed to follow the training well enough, though, until they discussed the account structure. Admin, okay. Know that one? User, yup. Windows got that one as well. But, me, excuse me, but what is a DeMouser? Thinking it must be some Unix thing about only accepting the keyboard input instead of the mouse or something. Trainer, say what? Me, DeMouser, it says there. Admin, user, DeMouser. Oh my god, I can't read this. After a moment of shocked silence, the laughter started, and I'm still getting teased by my now former colleagues about that one. The word was actually demo user. It's funny because when you see something, your brain just totally swears and convinces you that, no, this is what it says, DeMouser. And you just can't unsee it, and it's so hard to get your head around it. Just like those stupid pictures on Facebook and other social media. Who sees a brown dress? Who sees a blue dress? Who sees it? Whatever. The mind is a terrible thing. He Googled RTFM. English isn't my first language. I can barely speak English some days. Type this on phone. Bob isn't actually called Bob. Privacy reasons. I once worked at a giant company, and I was working at the help desk for phone and tablet problems. As I got more questions about the same easy configurations, I made some nice foolproof manuals. Whenever I gave out a new device, I showed them where to find the manuals and emailed them to the user. The worst of all, I even got a printed copy. I spent half an hour or more explaining the basic information about using the device, so we really invested in user support. But some people just like to get some extra support, and I got tired of it. We had a new tablet, and the people who found themselves most important insisted that they need the new tablet, although they couldn't explain why, except for, my work is very important. So that day, I had given out about 8 of the same tablets, and explained the same basic functions 8 times, and I was quite done. That's when Bob came back. He didn't even have his device for a half an hour, but he forgot where his email was located. I explained this to him before. I gave him the printed copies, but he insisted it didn't work as explained. I asked Bob if he ever heard about RTFM, which would solve most of his problems. I regretted within a few seconds when I realized what I had just blurted out. I hoped for him to walk away, but he got his phone and Googled RTFM. He read with an intense expression on his face for a few minutes. I was terrified. Lucky for me, he started laughing very loud and told me he liked my honesty a lot. He didn't actually read the manuals because he was so busy and blah blah blah. But he got my point and left. I never saw Bob again. Good for you, OP. I'm the same as Bob when it comes to, well, I'm not as hard-headed as those people, but if somebody says something like that to me and I might ask them, if they don't explain it to me, I'll stand right there and Google it. And I'd probably get the same chuckle out of it that he did. Yeah, some people just can't be helped though. Hashtag RAID is not backup. Hello, this tale comes from the world of production machines in a factory. This story was told to me secondhand, but it's too good not to share. Sorry for any formatting on mobile. Some backstory first. We have a machine which does an inspection/correction process on a product. Due to the unique way it was designed, there is both an industrial PC and a PLC on this machine. The PC portion of the machine does that data collecting and any math required, as well as controlling a small portion of the process by using LabVIEW, and the PLC controls the rest of the process. The original designers included a RAID 1 setup in the industrial PC. PCs and production machines are terrible and die rather quickly, and with a RAID 1 setup, they can eliminate downtime caused by drive failures. Spoiler alert, it didn't help. This machine is located halfway across the US from us. On to the story. Boss equals boss of machine design group. Engineer, guy who is mostly familiar with this machine in our group. Production, guy who's supposedly in charge of ensuring machine can run as needed. My boss gets a call one Friday morning. Production, the hard drive on the PC's died and the machine's no longer functional. We need your help. Boss, okay, why are you calling me? Call your local maintenance. Production, they can't fix it. Boss loops engineer into the call. Engineer, those machines have backups built into them. A simple hard drive failure shouldn't be much of a problem. Production, The other one failed too. Boss, they failed at the same time? Production, well, no. The one crashed several months ago, but we realized if we just hit F10 on startup, it would finish booting. Is that a problem? Boss. Engineer. Production, we went and bought a hard drive from Walmart. Can we just plug it into the computer? Boss. Engineer. Production, we need this machine back up now. It's having an impact on production. When can someone from your group get here? Boss, no one's even said we'll help you out yet. Engineer, did you have IT or anyone pull an image of that PC? Production, well, no. Built-in machine PCs aren't managed by IT, so they don't have anything. What do you mean you aren't going to help? Boss, you caused this problem all by yourself by ignoring the first disk dying. We might be able to offer suggestions from here about what you should do, but we have our own projects we're doing and can't drop everything just for you. Engineer, to help you recover, I believe you have another machine like this one. Maybe you could try using one of that machine's hard drives to run this one, but you might have to modify the setup to make it work. Also, you need to order 2 new drives, and put 1 in each machine if you do this. Production, okay, we'll copy the other machine onto this hard drive we bought and go that way. We'll call you when we need help. Engineer, no, I wouldn't use that. Never mind. You do whatever you want to do. Some time passes. Production, help, it's not working. Engineer, has anyone tried to figure out why? Production, no, we figured it would just be able to start right up. Engineer, per my previous email, the setup is mostly the same. You or someone down there needs to check and see how different they are. Production, help! Boss to engineer, just help them figure out what's different. Engineer does some looking. Engineer, you need to change these IP addresses from this to this. Then it should be good, but you'll have to reteach all the robot points. Production, great, thanks. And then we all wondered if any lessons were learned that day. General consensus is no. Yeah, it sounds like somebody was just being a hardhead, and then wanting everybody else to cover their behind. Kind of like the last story. It's still not driving straight after one of your techs came out to fix it. So I'm a project manager for a robotics company. Ooh, another robot. Our robots are primarily used in healthcare, but also industry. In healthcare, they basically are autonomous and drive around hospitals delivering stuff like medication, linens, taking trash, etc. And they obviously call and ride elevators to get between floors. For industry and warehouses, they basically work in shipping and receiving and deliver materials to specific departments or work areas for their inventory to take care of, or for the assembly people to use in the building. I was on track to get a promotion, which would have meant higher pay and more opportunity to travel, but I took up the responsibility of raising my friend's daughter after he and his wife passed away. Now I only have to worry about the sites local to my area. So basically, I get some tickets forwarded to me from help desk about some issues the robots had been having, and that a tech from our company was being sent to fix them. Well, I got an email last night saying that someone from help desk was sent out to fix a robot, but it was still driving off center and stopping itself. I called the department and told them I'd be in this morning, to take care of it. Also, I usually would wait and see if another tech can go out to a local site, but this is one of our more important ones. So I went to the office and got my tools and went to the site at about 6 a.m. I get there and immediately laugh to myself as to the stupidity of what the issue was. You know how a trailer attaches to a truck? That's basically what this model was like, just a metal bar that connected into the base, where the batteries are, that lets the head swivel. Usually it's dead center on. Usually. But this one was a good 5 inches off to the left, and immediately just hit a wall when I tried to test drive it. So I spent the next 45 minutes disassembling it and putting it back on center. There were even markings showing exactly where it needed to go, and every person who goes out there has documentation on how to fix it. Finally, I got it back online, calibrated it, and it drove normally again. I was dripping with sweat since this robot was in a linen department, and it's basically one big laundromat in there. And I went directly to help desk when I got back to the office and asked who went out the previous day to fix it. I even talked to the HD supervisor, who I consider to be a friend of mine, and showed him pictures I took of it being off-center, and he laughed in disbelief and said he'd talk to him about it. Sorry if that was long in the tooth. The main reason I got upset is because what that person did could have seriously hurt someone. The robot might think its pathway is clear and will end up hitting into someone or a wall without even knowing and then stop itself. That, and I had to miss having breakfast with my daughter. That made me mad more than anything. So that's not even incompetence. That's just laziness. That's just somebody slapping stuff back together. The either I don't care or it's the not my job attitude. Yeah, I'd be ticked off too. Peanut butter is the new thermal paste. In winter 2018, I took a job as IT/logistics/cutter at a local radio and television station, which broadcast the program in both German and French because it's right on the language border. Consequently, there was a French as well as German team, which then each took care of the broadcast in their language. Since my mother tongue is German, I also worked as an editor in the German-speaking team and hardly know anything to do with the French team. I knew that my predecessor quit in the fall of 2017, and I was accordingly surprised that everything was going well after I found a note from him that said, "Watch out, only idiots work here." So it's spring and warmer again when I get an email from the French team leader that he has a blue screen and can no longer work. So I go up to him and notice that the office where the French team works is smelling strange, but I don't think anything about it. I Google the error code and find out that the CPU is overheated. I think strange and tell him I'll take his desktop and give him a replacement so he can still work. In my office, I connect the PC again, and oh wonder, it starts again immediately, but the CPU is still quite warm. I let the system cool down and then do a few tests and keep getting the same blue screen, with the same error code. This was my first major incident. So I asked my boss how I should proceed, and he tells me that if the PC is no longer guaranteed, I should just replace it. So I build a new PC as a replacement, but decide to keep the old one as spare parts. Now it's midsummer, and I got 4 more computers with the same error from the French office. Since in the meantime my office PC has also decided to die, I decided to take one of the PCs with the heat problems into my office. Do you still remember the weird smell I mentioned at the beginning? Yeah? Good, because my office started to smell just like that. Then I got another email that one of the computers in the French office has a blue screen. I could meanwhile memorize the error code for the overheated CPU, and also noticed that this was the first PC that I had assembled in the spring. Since this was the first PC that still had a guarantee, I followed it up very carefully and first removed the CPU cooler, where I encountered a strong and now familiar smell. I unplugged my own office PC and also removed the CPU cooler from him and found the same brown-black mass, and also realized at that moment that this was not thermal paste. At that moment I remembered the note from my predecessor and decided to give him a call. After I explained who I am and why I called, we thought about what it was on the CPU and how it got there. I mentioned that the whole thing would smell slightly nutty. My predecessor started to laugh and exclaimed, "That idiot didn't really do that." I then got the explanation that the head of the French team had read somewhere that the thermal paste that Intel used was not of particularly high quality. Which is true, but that's why we use different ones. What my predecessor explained to him several times, but he didn't want to understand it. After my predecessor quit, he still got calls from the head of the French team, and since he just didn't feel like explaining the same thing to him again and again, my predecessor told him in an ironic voice that peanut butter was the best thermal compound, but don't tell anyone. After I told my boss this, the head of the French team had to replace processors worth 6,000 CHF out of pocket. Oh my god. Even if you thought the guy was serious, you gotta back it up with something. You gotta ask somebody else or Google it. I don't know what, but holy cow. Peanut butter is thermal paste. You turn me right round, baby, right round. There's a throwback, and I'm not singing it. At my former workplace, it was decided that, to give a more professional impression, finance should print on paper with a pre-printed letterhead. Said and done. Boxes of papers with pre-printed letterheads were ordered and delivered to finance department. We loaded the designated paper tray in finance department's copier, medium volume copier / scanner / printer, and did a test print from Word to make sure the papers were loaded the right way around. Fast forward a couple of weeks and I hear one of the finance people grumble about prints coming out upside down. That is, the printouts were rotated 180 degrees with the pre-printed letterhead at the bottom instead of at the top. Oh my god. Well, someone must have refilled the printer, turning the papers the wrong way around. I opened the paper tray and rotated the papers, and lo and behold, the printout came out with the letterhead the right way around. Easy peasy. All done, one would think. But no. I stayed around at finance to help another finance worker with a small application upgrade that required admin privileges. Suddenly, the first finance worker exclaims, "But WTF, who turned the letterhead papers the wrong way again?" None had touched the printer, but the printers were rotated upside down again. After some troubleshooting and head scratching, the cause was found. For some still unknown reason, the printouts were rotated 180 degrees depending on which program you were printing from. The most common was that Word printed the document one way and Acrobat Reader rotated them 180 degrees. But other applications of finance also seem to have their own ideas about the orientation of printouts. A final solution was never found since the company decided that including the letterhead in the document templates of all applications was cheaper than ordering paper with the pre-printed letterheads, so it was deemed a non-issue. My primary suspect was the print-on-demand software on the print server. You could print your printouts on any of the company servers by logging in on the printer with your door tag. I suspect that something in the print management messed up the page orientation. I don't think I've ever had that happen before, but I've never worked on big company networks either like that, so. I used to work as phone/cable TV tech support. So during my time working as tech support, I've encountered many customers. Some good, some not so good. However, there is this one customer who always calls in almost daily about an issue. Let's call her Karen. Now, everyone in the office knew her. Hell, even our client, who we had frequent contact with through internal chat, knew who this person was. This Karen was quite infamous to the point that if one of us got her on the line, anyone near would give them condolences to their handle time. You may be wondering what's so bad about it? Well, let me tell you what this customer does whenever she calls in. 1. She will call in and start saying a squirrel has made a nest in the phone box outside her house. 2. Have us make a ticket, sometimes multiple times a day, every day. 3. Start going on and on and on about irrelevant things, including accusing our field technicians of stealing her checkbook. Yes, that has happened more than I'd like. Number 4. On average, we need to have a handling time of 5 minutes. If you get Karen, try 1 hour to an hour and a half. Now, if one were to view a ticket section of a normal customer, there would be about 10 to 20 pages per duration of about 1 year or so. Karen had 80 pages of dispatch tickets. It got so serious that whenever we entered her profile, a notification would pop up saying, "We've already been to her house." The field manager and 2 technicians personally confirmed and verified that her line is working fine. Stop dispatching us to her. Her line is fine. And the option to dispatch on the ticket is grayed out. Now, it got serious to the point that whenever an agent receives her call, we need to send her to a supervisor. Me, being unlucky, was alone in the smaller room. We had 2 rooms, 1 large main and 1 small room, and the only supervisor has gone for lunch. I requested to help in the internal chat room, and it took about 30 minutes for a manager to arrive. And by then, it was hour 15. I guess every tech support has that one customer. Oh, by the way, that last one? She got transferred from the customer care department after they said, "No, we can't find any tickets on your account." No ticket my butt. Yeah, they were just trying to pawn her off on somebody else. Anybody. They didn't care who. Well, thanks for hanging out with me tonight, guys. If you've enjoyed this content, would you do me a favor? Please consider giving this video a like, subscribing to the channel, and maybe click that little bell icon so you don't miss the fat guy with the beard telling you stories. See ya!